Well, I kind of have to admit that I have not necessarily a feeling of euphoria, but this is exactly what I was intending to be able to do whenever I started thinking about outfitting Sarah. An example of the importance of preventive maintenance checks and services. Before I head it out, I do a double check of tire pressure, fluids, just generally making sure that it's roadworthy. Obviously, I was able to get a lug nut and get it back out on the road the next morning safely. In a previous video, I introduced season 1.9. This trip, I'm headed to Washington State. I'm actually headed to a birthday party. And what I wanted to do is obviously document along the way. And the primary reason why I wanted to introduce this as season 1.9, as opposed to just continuing with season 1 and then moving to season 2, etc., is because the build out isn't complete. And one of the things that I was told by several people on YouTube, that you don't want to actually build out completely, van, in my case an Xterra, or if you've got a bus or whatever, you don't want to build it out completely just to start. The best thing that you can do is actually start working towards traveling in it and see how it feels, feel it out, see what you need, what you don't need, and then start working towards putting it together that way. So I've got a little bit done. I've got a bed platform. I know that's going to work. I know that I want to be able to raise that bed platform just a little so that I can put a drawer underneath it, roll all of my clothes underneath, and I'll still have plenty of room to kind of maneuver myself in the Xterra. And then I also obviously want to build out a sort of a kitchen with an area where I have some dry storage and toiletries and things like that. That won't take up a whole lot of space. There will actually still be more space for storage. And then I also included an overhead storage container as well. I was able to take some time off work and travel to Washington very slowly. And that was intentional. I wanted to be able to get as much footage along the way as I could. I definitely look forward to being able to present that to you, and I hope you look forward to seeing it. For instance, this video is a kind of a play on words, Amarillo by morning. I have Amarillo by sunset, and at the very end of this video, there is a spectacular sunset across a ridge line that I was able to capture and present to you. On this particular trip, there were two things that I wanted to highlight specifically. The first was the Chisholm Trail and its role in the panhandle of North Texas, as well as the landscape of North Texas, the panhandle specifically, the Llano Estacado. The first thing I wanted to start with is the Chisholm Trail. Now, I'm actually traveling on a highway, obviously. That's not going to be the Chisholm Trail, and although the Chisholm Trail's exact route is uncertain, it originated south of San Antonio and ran across to Oklahoma and ended up in Abilene, Kansas. Very little is actually known of its early history. It was probably named after Jesse Chisholm, a 19th century trader. Between 1867 and 1871, about 1.5 million head of cattle were driven north along the trail to Abilene, which was the departure point for shipments of the cattle to the eastern markets. The longhorn cattle driven north along it provided a steady source of income that helped the impoverished state recover from the Civil War. The cattle did not follow a clearly defined trail, except at river crossings. When dozens of herds were moving north, it was necessary to spread them out to find grass. The animals were allowed to graze along for 10 or 12 miles a day and never pushed except to reach water. Cattle that ate and drank their fill were unlikely to stampede. When conditions were favorable, longhorns actually gained weight on the trail. After trailing techniques were perfected, a trail boss, 10 cowboys, a cook, and a horse wrangler could trail 2,500 cattle 3 months for 60 to 75 cents a head. This was far cheaper than shipping by rail. The Chisholm Trail was finally closed by barbed wire and an 1885 Kansas quarantine law. By 1884, its last year, it was open only as far as Caldwell in southern Kansas. In its brief existence, it had been followed by more than 5 million cattle and 1 million Mustangs, the greatest migration of livestock in world history.
Do you ever wonder if days like these last with one another, with the feeling pass? Would you find out with me if it all starts to crumble?
The Spanish conquistador Francisco Coronado, the first European to traverse this sea of grass in 1541, described the later named Llano Estacado as follows, quote, "I reached some plains so vast that I did not find their limit anywhere I went, although I traveled over them for more than 300 leagues, with no more landmarks than if we had been swallowed up by the sea. There was not a stone, nor a bit of rising ground, nor a tree, nor a shrub, nor anything to go by." End quote. If you have ever traveled across the Llano Estacado, you can certainly understand how he must have felt. The Llano Estacado, commonly known as the Staked Plains, is a region of the southwestern United States that encompasses part of eastern New Mexico and northwestern Texas. One of the largest mesas or tablelands on the North American continent, the elevation rises from 3,000 feet or 900 meters in the southeast to over 5,000 feet or 1,500 meters in the northwest, sloping almost uniformly at about 10 feet per mile. The Spanish name Llano Estacado is often interpreted in English as Staked Plains, but it's more accurately rendered as stockaded or palisaded plains. In the early 18th century, the Comanche extended their territory into the Llano Estacado, displacing the Apache who had previously lived there. The region became part of the Comancheria, a Comanche stronghold, until the final defeat of the tribe in the late 19th century. The Llano Estacado is slightly larger in area than the state of Indiana. The southern extension of the High Plains, the region is some 250 miles north to south and 200 miles east to west. The roads in the Llano Estacado are straight and meet mostly at right angles. As you can see from the video, the Llano Estacado is relatively featureless. In fact, the only features that you see primarily are the man-made features, such as the roads, or in some cases the wind farms, or obviously the buildings along the way. Not necessarily a feeling of euphoria, but this is exactly what I was intending to be able to do whenever I started thinking about outfitting Sara. I mean, I came past a national park sign, no gates, rules near the entrance. Dirt roads, 15 miles an hour. Speed limit max, I'm doing about 12 comfortably. No four-wheel drive needed here anyway. There's going to be plenty more overlanding where this comes from, but this is exactly what I was intending to be able to do. Just put together the platform and then get out on the road. I drove from San Antonio. I'm a little bit north of Amarillo today, about 9 hours drive by Lake Meredith, and I have come across several campsites so far that I've just passed. Well, here comes a wide open one that might look promising, but again, even on the way back I saw 5 or 6 that I would like to stop, and I only saw one vehicle in any of them all the way back. So I'm just gonna keep going, check out the road back here, see if there's a kind of like Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park. Is there going to be a lake on this Lake Meredith Road? It's going on forever so far, but again, that's the joy of being able to do what I'm doing. Even if the road gets rough, pop it in four-wheel drive and go. But the terrain is interesting. I mean, it is as rocky as any parts of the hill country that I've ever seen in any given location. In fact, more exposed rocks. You can probably see through here, more exposed rocks than the hill country. Different type of tree, more cedar in the hill country. And of course, we are pretty much smack dab in Llano Estacado, and this is not what I envisioned the Llano Estacado to look like. Although the drive today was exactly what I expected Llano Estacado to look like. So we must be, well, we are over the Ogallala Aquifer, and we may be near Palo Duro Canyon. I'm not positive exactly where. I think it's north of here. It is north of here. Palo Duro Canyon. There's 3 cars there. So I'm actually driving past some people who kind of did the same thing I did, just drive a little further in just to see if there's campsites available. I may be turning around. I saw one that was perfect. It was off the road probably about 35-40 feet, and it had a cul-de-sac, 1 campsite, table, fire, a burn pit in the middle, and it was surrounded by trees. Beautiful. So that's probably where I'm going to swing by after I exhaust my options on this road, because if I don't come across a lake here pretty quick, I'm probably not going to keep going. But it's interesting to see. Very interesting to see. Here's another spot, another burn pit. This is actually a campsite with 2. I don't know, maybe they would consider this 1. I may have come to the end. I may be camping here, because this would definitely work. For sure. Is there any wood in that pit? It's a big old down log right there. But I don't have a big chainsaw. There's no wood in there. But find some wood. Shoot, there's probably plenty of wood just laying on the ground. Now that is one of the rules. They say you cannot cut any wood other than downed trees or logs or gathered limbs for fire. Fire in burn pits only. I did not read anything specifically that said ban anywhere, so I'm gonna assume that we may be good. Try this a little further up. Right now I'm just kind of rambling. This is what I normally don't like to do, just talking for the sake of talking, but I really just felt like turning the camera around and looking at the opportunity that I have, the experience of driving down this road and seeing what's available. And I will say this, getting pretty close to dropping it into 4-wheel drive if this road keeps getting rough. And, oh, yeah, damn.
Dead end. Alright, so I have exhausted my possibilities, and I will be turning around, and I'll probably go back to that campsite that I went to that was a little closer to the entrance, because I don't want to get myself in trouble here. There's my 4-wheel drive need. Alright, let's put her in. Neutral. There we go. Reverse. And blow out a wheel right here. The farthest back I can go. That'd be awesome. Blow out not a wheel, but a axle or something. Drop it on the ground. Waiting for a tow truck. Not gonna happen, bro. You're gonna have to pay for a sky crane and have it flown out. How much is that gonna cost? Oh, I don't know. We can probably get it done for about $17,000. Sold. Shoot, you can't even get airlifted out by helicopter for less than $20,000. Sky crane's a 6-digit figure, probably. Now I'm really rambling.
My wristwatch is broken. My shoes are untied. Time is a ticking, and so is the tide. But I am not worried. Things are what they are. Come rain or come shine or a shooting star. I've been to the south, I've been to the north, east and the west, the middle of course. I may have been astray, but I've never been lost, never been beat by the road I've crossed. I guess I've been lucky to some degree, for someone who ate all the fruit from the tree. Stars been aligned and my goose hanging high. I'll be okay in the sweet by and by. I'll be okay in the sweet by and by.